You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
So, as I was talking about a second ago, we're getting ready for, the shipment of vaccines all going out today. It's interesting, I'm a big fan of Marvel movies because, with my kids growing up, they were kind of at that age, right, when Marvel was hitting big time. Of course, I grew up reading Marvel comics, right? This was, we used to collect comics as kids.
It was barbershop fare.
Exactly. So, when Marvel came, and there's a very interesting story behind the whole Marvel franchise. Sony was supposed to buy it, and they turned them down.
Really?
Yeah. And they said, we don't really think people will get into watching Marvel movies, right? So they bought Spider-Man, but they passed on the rest of the Marvel universe, and then Disney bought them, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars later, history. Disney's benefit. But anyway, it's interesting. If you watch these movies, there's a common theme that runs through these movies. And it's not just the Marvel movies, by the way. There's been tons of these movies over the course of the last few years talking about overcrowding and overpopulation, right? And so one of the themes of the Marvel movies is if you get to the end of the series and you watch all the movies get to the end of the series, there's the villain, right? And he's searching for a method, and which is, I'm not going to ruin the movie if you've never seen it, but he's searching for a method because with a snap of a finger, literally, he can wipe out half the population at random of the world, and then that would stabilize the planet to be healthier and be ecologically sound, right? Solve the climate change issue because people are what are the real problems. We're all running around trying to figure out how to get electric vehicles and cut back on, kill off the number of cows because they produce methane. But the real problem is people, right? When it comes to climate change, the real problem is people and its population. So, it's interesting. So I'm reading over the week. Why am I telling you this? Because I'm thinking there's a movie being written here that we need to pay attention to. So here's the premise of the movie, right? The world, it's 2030. The population of the world is just exceedingly out of control, right? We're approaching 8 billion people on the planet, and the government elites, which is always the case, right? If you go back and look at these movies, it's always the government involved. It's always the elite government people always involved at the top of these conspiracy theories. So the government elites decide that they need to engage in a form of population control in order to try to save the planet. But how can they do that, right? So they come up with this master stroke of genius. This is James Bond, So the government specter, right? They come up with this genius plan. They release a virus upon the planet that they then have to cure, right? And they already have the cure sitting in the wings, right? So they release this virus upon the planet, and in order to cure this virus, which they already have a cure for, they have to administer everybody a vaccine, and that vaccine has the nasty side effect of potentially indefinitely causing infertility. So they get everybody vaccinated. Basically, it stops the reproduction of humans, and then over the course of a generation, you reduce the size of the population markedly, right? Solves your problem. Interestingly enough, that was, the reason I say this is because I'm reading over the weekend, right? I'm reading about the vaccine, and it says one of the side effects, they recommend that people that are thinking about getting pregnant not take the vaccine because it may indefinitely lead to infertility. Now, because again, we haven't tested this vaccine. But all I'm saying is this has all the earmarks. Somebody needs to write this movie because this has all the earmarks of one of these Marvel.
Stan Lee is rolling over in his grave.
He's like, I've just missed it by that much. So, but it's just interesting, right? We're trying to get this vaccine out, trying to get everybody vaccinated. and it's been a major rush to do so, and it's fine, right? But there are things in life that almost write themselves as these conspiracy movies, and this fits right up there. I mean, this movie almost writes itself at this point. Anyway, the hope is, now let's get serious. The hope is, of course, that we get this vaccine out, we get everybody vaccinated, get people back to work. The economy recovers. Now, going into 2021, it's expected that, and this is kind of a wide belief of, kind of economists and market professionals, et cetera, that we're going to have this massive boost in consumer spending and economic activity, because as soon as we all get back to work, the people are just champing at the bit to get back out into the public and going back to restaurants and bars and hanging out all night and doing all these type of things. I don't know about you, my life really hasn't changed that much. I'm in bed by 9 because it's just that point in my life. I got to get up at 4. So
some people work for a living.
Some people work, but I'm at the age where now my mind thinks my wife always accuses me of being 5 because that's the way my mind works. Of course, my body regularly asks me if I'm not dead yet. Yeah. So that's the other side of the equation. How you think and how you feel, 2 different things.
A little subtle reminder.
But yeah, I mean, so this is the hope. But the question though is that really going to be the case? A couple of reasons I asked the question is really twofold. One, I would say that would be an absolutely correct assessment had you not done stimulus and extended unemployment benefits, et cetera, back earlier this year. That led to a very, very sharp recovery in terms of retail sales, consumer spending. Everybody went out and they spent that money. That dragged forward consumption. We had a 33% increase in GDP in the third quarter. Atlanta Fed currently estimates we'll have an 11% increase. This is annualized, by the way, an 11% increase in GDP for the fourth quarter. So if you want to know what that's going to mean in terms of actual GDP numbers, take 11 divided by 4, right? So that's about a 2.5% pop in GDP in the second quarter. In other words, returning back to normal. But, we've already, what stimulus and unemployment benefit, these extended unemployment benefits did, which were in excess of what people were making prior to the pandemic, is allowed them to go out and do things that they wouldn't normally do. So they were able to go out and buy stuff and drag forward future consumption. That's why we saw retail sales pop up. The question is sustainability. Great, we get these people back to work. They go back to doing what they were doing before, which paid less than what they were making on unemployment benefits. They've got to go back to now paying rent and paying mortgages, right? Because we've got this mortgage moratorium and rent moratorium going on right now. So a lot of people have excess cash to spend at the moment because they're not paying rent. So once those moratoriums go away, they've got to go back to paying their student loan debt. They've got to go back to paying their rent. They've got to go back to paying their mortgage, and they go back to work. Awesome, right? They're back to work, but they're making less money than they were making before. There's a real probability that we're not going to have this massive economic explosion of what we call pent-up demand, because we already pulled forward that pent-up demand using excess stimulus and direct checks to households and those type of things. Now, the hope is that over the course of the next week, we're going to get another stimulus package of some amount. And so that will probably provide a boost to economic growth while that lasts. But the problem, and this is where we get into this kind of this MMT trap, this modern monetary theory trap, is that once you do these things, right, and this is the thing we're in now, right? So we did this stimulus package, now it's rolling off, and we're starting to see some weakness in the economic data. So we've got to rush out and do more stimulus. So we do that stimulus. We get everybody back to work now. We've got a vaccine out. That's awesome. Get everybody back to work, and then if the economy starts slowing down again, then you've got to do more stimulus. And so now you're in that trap to where you have to keep doing stimulus in order to maintain the same level of economic growth. The problem with stimulus is it leads to non-productive activity in the economy, right? If you start giving me stimulus on a regular basis and it's enough to sustain my lifestyle, then I don't need to work. So you reduce productivity in the economy. This is just the way it works. People, and there's, this is the interesting thing about economic theory. Economic theory is based upon the idea that everybody will do and act in the same way. And part of that economic theory relies upon the function that people are responsible to the point that they are going to go out and they're going to work regardless. So if I give you stimulus to help make your life better, you're going to keep working anyway. The reality is that people don't operate that way. People do make choices that are not inherently beneficial to the economy. They don't think that way. They think about themselves. They don't think about the collective, right? This is an interesting, situation that comes up with kind of economic theory. And it's one of the reasons that economic theory never really works out the way that people expect, right? More debt, more deficits, right? We should be having a booming economy, but we don't, because debts and deficits detract from economic growth because of the diversion of income. But this is the idea where we get to. And, right now, the market is exceedingly exuberant over this idea that we're going to have this massive explosion of economic growth this year. The question is, and I'm not saying whether it will be or will be not. All I'm saying is that there's a risk that we could see a disappointing outcome of the vaccine because we've already pulled forward the activity that we would have gotten had we not done stimulus earlier this year. So we'll have to see what the payback's going to be ultimately down the road. Quick break, we'll be back. More of the Real Investment Show coming right up.
God sent you hallelujah. God sent you hallelujah. God sent you hallelujah. Cause I'm down back, I'm giving to ya. Cause I'm down back, I'm giving to ya. Cause I'm down back, I'm giving to ya. Saturday night, we hit the bar. Don't believe me, just watch.
Listen anyplace, anytime at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Hi, this is Connie Mack, CEO, wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from all of us at RIA Advisors.
Hi, this is Michael Leibowitz, Portfolio Manager and Trading, and I just want to wish you and yours a very happy holidays and a happy new year.
It's Rich Rosso, Director of Financial Planning for RIA Advisors, wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And this is Danny Ratliff wishing you a happy, healthy 2021 from all of us at RIA Advisors.